But we'll start with a question. What is your mission? What is the mission that you're on, and how can delivering software help with that? The truth is, I don't know. I don't know what mission you're on. I do know that software and delivering software can help you get there. The truth is that we are all, both individually and with the teams that we work in and the organizations that we're working in, we are technology organizations. I love this quote from a former CTO of Alaska Airlines. We are no longer an airline. We are a software company with wings. We're a software company. Every single one of us works in a software company or a software-driven, technology-driven organization. And technology is what enables those great user experiences. Whether your users are fighters on the battlefield or your users are asylum seekers trying to come into our country, technology helps drive that mission success. So how can you and your organization optimize value delivery through investments in technology and in technologists, the people that are doing the work? Well, the first thing that you're going to need is a way to assess how are things going today. You want to understand, are you able to deliver technology to your users in the way that makes sense? Let's see, we'll go forward, not backwards here, because when you want to deliver software, you should always be moving forward, right? We need a way to prioritize. What's holding us back, and where should we work on? What should we focus on next? And then finally, we need a way to get feedback on that. The truth is that as we're developing technology, here's the thing about code and technology. It's an experiment. In fact, every line of code that you write is a new experiment. Is that code doing what you expected it to do? Is it doing what you hoped it would do? We don't know. We need ways to compress those feedback cycles. And this is where Dora comes in. So everyone say hello to Dora. Hi, Dora. You might not know what Dora is. I'll tell you about it very briefly here. So Dora is a research program that's been going on for nearly a decade now. This research program has talked to over 36,000 professionals around the world in every type of organization. We get input from 250-year-old banks. I don't know if banks are 250 years old. They probably are. We get information from government agencies. We get information and insights from technology startups that are months old. In order to gather this data, we're really asking this question of how do your teams work together today to deliver and operate software? And in order to get that information, we ask them these questions. I'll let you just read all of these questions and think about your answers to them briefly. Okay, I know you can't read any of those questions. The questions are a little bit less important right now for our purposes. So what we do is we ask these questions, and we go and we investigate different capabilities that teams might have. I'll talk about those capabilities in a minute, but what we're able to do by gathering data on those capabilities is a predictive analysis. We can say that this particular capability can predict a particular outcome or help impact a certain outcome. What sort of capabilities? Well, this is a little bit less of an eye chart. You can read some of the capabilities here. We talk about and research technical capabilities. What technical capabilities do teams need in order to deliver software? But it's beyond technical capabilities alone. We also look at process capabilities and, probably most important, the culture of your organization. We know that the people and how they work together, the way that they collaborate, drives more than anything else how well a team is able to achieve their mission. Each year, the research publishes a report. You can grab this year's report at this URL, dora.dev/report. Of course, we're going to make all the slides available to you later. And you can see me after the talk. I'll hand you not a copy of the report, but a way to get to it. So what are some of our key findings over the years? Well, here's the thing. Looked at 4 key metrics that measure that software delivery performance. And we asked these 4 questions. From the time a line of code or a configuration change is committed to your version control system, how long does it take for that change to make it into production? And how frequently are you updating those production systems? And when you do, how frequently do those changes create a failure or an incident, something that you have to address immediately? And when you do have to address something immediately, how long does it take to restore service? We call these the 4 key measures of software delivery performance. 2 of them are for throughput, that deployment frequency and your change lead time, and 2 for stability, your change fail rate and your failed deployment recovery time. Taken together, we can use these 4 measures to measure our software delivery performance for any type of technology. It doesn't really matter how that technology makes it into production. Do you have to load some technology onto a helicopter and fly it out to a ship? We can measure that using these 4 performance measures. Are you continuously delivering code into the cloud and making it available to your users? We can measure that here. And these 4 measures also have to have shared accountability. We can't turn to half of the room and say, those throughput measures, those are yours. Those stability measures, those are yours. When we do, it's the same as deciding how much tonnage of cereal should we be producing today. Let's not do that. One of the things that's incredible that we've found over the years of this research, and this research has been going on for about a decade now, is that stability and velocity are not trade-offs of one another. In fact, in order for your changes to be stable, they have to be fast. And when they're fast, they will be stable. It's a virtuous cycle here. And look, sometimes you might be thinking, well, we're a highly regulated government agency. We are very risk averse. The truth is, there will be a time when you have to move fast. There's security vulnerabilities around every corner. Security vulnerabilities that are in production that we didn't know about until this morning. We have to be able to move fast to address those. And if we don't have the organizational muscle to do so, we're not going to be able to act well. So the truth is that through stability, we get velocity, and through velocity, we get stability. It's a virtuous cycle. Now, when we look at these 4 software delivery metrics, what do we see about them? Remember I said that we do a predictive analysis. One of the things that we can predict is that these 4 software delivery metrics are predictive of better organizational performance. In the commercial world, that might mean better profit. In the government world, it might mean happier constituents. It might mean that people can get their applications for visas processed faster. But not only does it lead to better organizational outcomes, we find that it also is predictive of better well-being for the people on your team. Less burnout, less rework, higher job satisfaction. All of these are things that you want. But if these are how we measure software delivery performance and the good things that we get from them, another question, or maybe the next question, is how do we get better? How do we actually improve software delivery performance? And that's where our research into these capabilities comes in. And we look at things like technical capabilities. What technical capabilities must your team have? And this research is program and platform agnostic. So we don't tell you, go out and buy a tool. And if you buy this one tool, you're going to achieve all of the glory when it comes to software delivery performance. Because, of course, we all know that that's not true. But what we do need is a capability. A capability like automated tests. What does your test automation capability look like? Remember, every line of code is an experiment. How do we get feedback on that experiment as fast as possible? Automated tests is one way that you'll get there. So there are technical capabilities that we look at, of course. But we do look beyond technical capabilities as well. We look at things like process capabilities. Now, think about the change approval process. I've written a line of code. It's been through all of its automated tests. It's ready. It's ready to go to production. Well, sometimes we have to hand that change off to an external board, maybe a change approval board, who has no real insights into how do the systems actually work. That change approval board was put in place for good reason. We want to reduce risk. And by reducing risk, or by looking at each of the changes that we're about to roll out, maybe we'll have a better idea on the risk profile of those changes, and we can slow down those big, risky changes. But what our research has shown time and time again is that those external bodies that have to approve those changes, 1, they slow things down. No surprise there. But 2, they increase risk. They actually make your changes less stable when they land in production. The system never ceases to surprise me. There's always something new lurking around the corner. What can we learn from that? This approach to failure really exposes what is the culture like within your organization. And when we talk about culture, I'm not talking about free yogurt at breakfast and foosball tables. I'm talking, and I'm going to quote Westrom here, culture is defined as the organization's pattern of response to opportunities, to problems and opportunities it encounters. How does your organization respond to problems and opportunities? This is really important. And what Westrom did, he has done research in a ton of safety-critical organizations. He looks at emergency rooms, nuclear power plants. He investigated and worked with the people who created the Sidewinder missile. He identified this topology of organizational cultures. He's identified these 3 different types of organizations. You have the power-oriented or the pathological organization, the rule-oriented, and the performance-oriented. So pathological, bureaucratic, and generative. And I think it's important, as you look at this, I would imagine first that you can see your team today. You can see the team that you work on right up in here. Now, it is probably also true that your team does not fit squarely in one of those columns. Think of this as kind of a continuum. But understanding where you fit maybe gives you some insights into things that you can start to improve. I also want to pay particular attention to this last row here. What is the focus of the leader in each one of these types of organizations? The leader in that pathological or power-oriented organization, it's all about me. We're going to do things my way, and whatever we do, I'm going to grow in my power and stature within this organization. And I'm going to make choices that allow that to happen. In the bureaucratic organization, the leader is really focused on departmental turf. And as Westrom says, doing things by the book. Whatever the policy says, we're going to follow the policy. We're going to follow it to a T all the time, every time. And as Westrom points out, one of the challenges in this type of organization is that not all leaders are reading from the same book. So we're going to do things by the book. Whose book? My book. Not your book, my book. But it's that performance-oriented or that generative organization where we see the best success, where responsibilities are shared, where new ideas are welcomed, where when something fails, we ask that question, what can we learn from this failure? What can we learn from that? So how do you change your culture? How do you change culture? Well, there's this old saying, it is easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than it is to think your way into a new way of acting. So how do we change culture? We change culture by changing the tools. We change culture by changing how people work. Continuous integration means that we have an automated build process that's going to build our code every time a line of code is checked in. We have a suite of automated tests, and we're not allowing branches to live for a long time. We want to get those branches closed and merged back into our main line as fast as possible. This changes our culture. And here's the most important thing about continuous integration. And I think one of the hardest things for us as a team and as an organization to truly grasp and truly put into practice. This first one, agreeing that fixing a broken build takes priority over any other work. So when I'm working in a continuous integration way, I have automated tests. Those tests get run every time a line gets changed in my code repository. And if those tests fail, we have to have an organizational or at least a team commitment that what we're going to do is we're going to stop other work. We're going to fix those broken tests. And of course, by fixing those broken tests, what I don't mean is commenting out those tests or removing those tests. Now the build is green again, let's continue forward. And this is one of those things that in this room we can probably all nod our head and agree, like, yes, of course, if the build breaks, we're going to stop and fix it. It's easy to agree to in principle. It is very difficult to do in practice. And the way that you do it in practice is, well, it's just by that, by practice. by doing this over and over and over again. There are a bunch of ways for you to measure continuous integration as well. And this is where our research program really tries to help you. We want to look at those 4 key metrics to help you understand how well are you performing when it comes to software delivery performance. But we want to go beyond that. Those 4 metrics are just kind of the surface. What you need to do, what you want to do as a team, is set a baseline. How are we doing today? We will get it right this time. Oh, I love the enthusiasm, but I'm sorry to tell you, you're probably not going to get it right this time. In fact, as we do anything new, we're unlikely to get anything right the first time. And so this really is about adopting and embracing a mindset and a practice of continuous improvement. Use Dora to understand how you're doing today. Use those capabilities to understand what might be holding you back, and go change something about that thing, that capability.